And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Shrine of Remembrance in Melbourne, where a healthy crowd has turned out on what is a fairly cold Melbourne day. 11 degrees is what I've been told. And thank you to Tony, our stringer in Melbourne, who's holding the camera for us right now. Marvellous to have him in. Macca, good to have you lining up first up, considering I screwed up the time. I put in Victorian time instead of Australian Daylight Normal Time. Cunning linguist, you got us. Well done. G'day, Paul. Nice to have you around too, mate. You won't miss too much. Another 2 minutes before the service starts. So, as you can see, there has been a pretty reasonable sort of a turnout at the moment. Now, Tony is probably trying to find Darren. That may well be Darren. Well, he's back to us just to get away from the music a little bit. Of course, they always manage to roll out the best band, that is the Defence Forces band, on days like today. Great crowd. And, of course, a very solemn part of the day. Remembrance, the 11th of the 11th. You might notice, folks, there's a lot of people standing with their backs to the official party. That would probably indicate that horrible piece of work that's running Victoria at the moment is arriving. So I don't think she's going to get too much respect from many of the veterans that are there. And quite a few of the My Place folks who've turned up as well. So we're stepping back a bit, just wondering whether or not Darren or Craig might be available.
The Governor will now make her way to the sanctuary within the Shrine Monument. You'll be able to watch proceedings in the sanctuary on the screens either side of the shrine.
It's interesting that we're not allowed to actually see what goes on. Well, we can see it, but we can't participate in what goes on in the shrine. You might also notice the cloud cover in Melbourne. Now, on the 11th hour, on the 11th day, there is a shaft of light comes through the roof of that shrine and hits a certain point. I think once in my lifetime have I seen it. Here's the big fella himself. So the governor is doing, I think it's a her in Victoria, her official business.
The Catapult Party will soon form. The Catapult Party are sentries who guard the symbolic graves of our deceased veterans. Today's Catapult Party comprises members of the Victoria Police Shrine Guard. Shrine Guard Catapult Party, take post.
Interesting to also note, just going back to the shaft of light that is meant to pierce through the roof of that shrine and hit a certain point inside the shrine. It all happened at 10 o'clock because of daylight savings. That particular timeline is always moved an hour. So if you thought you were going to see it at 11 o'clock, you wouldn't. You'd have to be there at 10 a.m. And of course, they don't let you in at 10 a.m. I've been there from about 6 in the morning and they don't let you in. So
If you're able, I invite you to please stand as we commence the ceremonial part of today's service. The Governor of Victoria, Her Excellency Professor the Honourable Margaret Gardner AC, will now lay a wreath at the Stone of Remembrance on behalf of the people of Victoria. I now invite Colonel Catherine Carrigan to place her wreath on behalf of all of those who have served. Colonel Carrigan will now proceed to the lectern to recite the Ode of Remembrance. Immediately following the ode, bugle calls and gunfire will announce the start and the end of the minute silence commencing at 11 a.m. If you're able, please remain standing throughout.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Please be seated. The acclaimed Australian performer, Sylvie Palladino, accompanied by the Royal Australian Navy Band, will now perform Abide With Me. Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens, Lord, with me when others fail and comforts flee. Help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. I need thy presence every passing hour. But put thy face and for the tempter's
If they went from speakers again.
like thyself, my guide and stay and be. Proud and sunshine, oh, abide with me. Hold now thy cross
It's not that loud. What?
Thank you, Silver Palladino and the Royal Australian Navy Band for that moving performance. I now invite Shrine Young Ambassador Natalie Ma to recite In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row and row, that mark our place, and in the sky, still laughs and still bravely singing July. Scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we go. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who died, we shall not sleep, though poppies blow in Flanders fields.
Thank you, Natalie. I now invite Her Excellency, the Governor of Victoria, to present the Remembrance Day address.
The Honourable Jacinta Allen, Premier of Victoria, the Honourable Andrew Giles, representing the Prime Minister, the Honourable Natalie Suleiman, Minister for Veterans, Brad Batten, Leader of the Opposition, Members of State and Federal Parliament, the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor Nicholas Rees, Captain Stephen Bowater, Chair and Trustees of the Shrine of Remembrance, Vivian Newen, Chairperson, Victorian Multicultural Commission, Commissioners and senior public servants, senior officers of the Australian Defence Force, members of the Consular Corps, former and current servicemen and women, distinguished guests. I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are gathered, the Boonwurrung and Wurundjeri, the Boonwurrung people of the Eastern Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I also want to acknowledge past and present members of the Australian Defence Force with us today. Thank you for your service. Remembrance Day is a moment of national ceremony. It is a day when we share a minute of silence to mark the armistice, the moment the guns fell silent on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. But that shared silence is about more than the end of World War I, much more. That silence also commemorates the 103,128 servicemen and women who have died in the service of our country in all conflicts. That silence is a moment for the nation to give collective thanks for the rights and freedoms we all enjoy, rights and freedoms made possible by the sacrifices of those who served. That silence is a moment for national reflection. With that in mind, I want to tell you a story. Earlier this month, I met a friend and two of his mates at Government House. These three men were friends, more like brothers, and their bond was created by a lottery. You see, they met because they were among the 804,000 young men required to register for national service between 1964 and 1972. During the Vietnam War, more than 63,000 of those men were conscripted via the birthday ballot. And on September 22nd, 1969, the birthdays of those three friends were pulled out of the barrels. Their conscription letters gave them a choice. Serve 2 years in prison or 2 years in the armed forces. The three men chose the army and turned up for training in January 1970. They forged their friendship through the rigorous training to be infantry platoon commanders. 7 months later, the three friends, who before conscription had been working as teachers in outback schools, graduated as infantry officers. One became a platoon commander in a recruit training battalion. One became an army aviator, and one served as an armoured cavalry officer in Vietnam. One friend was sent to Vietnam, two were not. There is a representative equivalence in this equation because more than 19,000 Nashos, roughly 1 in 3 of the conscripts, were sent to Vietnam. And of those sent to Vietnam, more than 1,200 became casualties. Another 200 of those young Australian conscripts never returned home, accounting for 40% of Australian fatalities in Vietnam. As I said, Remembrance Day is for all those who served, not just for those who served in World War I. But given this year marks the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon, I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the Australians who are on the ground in those final chaotic days, including the hundreds of RAAF personnel in detachment S who evacuated thousands of refugees to safety. The 2 humanitarian volunteers, Margaret Moses and Lee Mack, who were killed when a US military transport carrying orphans crash landed in Saigon. The 4 RAAF guards, Mick Sheehan, Trevor Nye, John Hanson and Ian Dana, who were left on the tarmac when the last scheduled Australian plane departed, and Brigadier Ted Sarong, who stayed behind to rally South Vietnamese forces and became the last Australian officer to leave Vietnam. One of the RAAF guards left behind in Saigon, Trevor Nye, said of their situation, the 4 men had 4 pistols, 4 rounds each, no food, no water, no communication. We had a couple of smokes. They were only rescued on Anzac Day 1975 when an Australian Hercules was diverted from Thailand. A few days later, Saigon fell. It's impossible to know what it felt like to be on the ground in the last days of Saigon, just as it is impossible to know what it felt like to be a combatant in places like Gallipoli, Beersheba, Bretano, Tobruk, Kokoda, Kapyong, Longtan, Afghanistan, or Iraq. Perhaps that was why, when I met those 3 friends, I asked my friend, the Vietnam veteran, whether he had an abiding memory of war. He answered me carefully, and these are his words. He told me that war brings out the best and the worst of men. He told me that a price is paid when a young man is given a gun and commanded to kill other men. That price, he told me, is etched into the soul of each man and can never be fully erased or repaired. That is why, he said, veterans, especially young veterans who served in Afghanistan or Iraq, need the love and support of the nation they served. And that is why, he added, the families of veterans need our love and support too. For me, his words, his carefully chosen words, go to the heart of the matter of Remembrance Day. We're here not to glorify war, but to honour those who on our behalf faced its horrors. We are here as fellow citizens to personify the love and support of the nation for them. And we are here to ensure the price they paid is forever remembered, lest we forget.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Our next speaker is Vivian Nguyen. Vivian arrived in Australia as a 12-year-old refugee from South Vietnam. For 25 years, Viv has been a leader in corporate, community and government settings. She has held executive roles with AMP and ANZ and was president of the Vietnamese community in Australia, Victoria chapter. In 2021, Viv was awarded the Member of the Order of Australia for advancing multicultural Victoria. I now invite Vivian to speak about what commemoration and Remembrance Day mean to her.
I acknowledge the custodians of the land on which we are meeting today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respect to their elders past and present and acknowledge the presence of Uncle Mark, all of the elders from First Nations, brothers and sisters. As chairperson of the Victorian Multicultural Commission, I am honoured to be part of this commemoration. Australia is a representative democratic country. Many refugees who have come to Australia in the knowledge and belief that their new home will protect and defend them. That the new home will offer comfort and confidence to feel home, to be home, and to belong to the land. And migrants and refugees come here, believing that our life will be better, be that in health, employment, education, quality of life, or the opportunity for us and for our children. The right to cast our vote and to choose who to represent us, and the responsibility to contribute. War and conflict form part of the stories and experiences of migrants and refugees. Such experience can weigh heavily on our daily life. The intensity and depth of the emotional connection to war and conflict can be both debilitating and liberating at the same time. The Shrine is home to every Victorian, and to pause to reflect on our individual and collective experience of wars. It offers a place of comfort for us to reflect and to understand better, more accurately, and in an impartial manner, the complex past. It is indeed comforting to know that the Shrine belongs to every Victorian. I may not be ready to share my story today or tomorrow, but I find it comforting to know that I can. And when I am ready, the Shrine will always be there to listen, to curate, and to have my story as part of its collection. As a respected institution, the Shrine brings people together. It creates a much needed safe space to help people make the first steps towards healing, dialogue, and ultimately towards our commitment to peace. As a refugee from Vietnam, allow me to express my gratitude to the Vietnam veterans and to the 523 fallen soldiers. I pay my deepest respect to all of you and your family. and I express my gratitude to all of the veterans who served. On this day, I join with every Victorian to pause, reflect, and honor the men and women who died in the line of duty. I join with every Victorian to remember those whose lives were lost or changed forever by war. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. The readings will now be made. Please come forward once I have announced your name.
Well, there you go, folks. Some of the speeches being had there at the shrine. Darren Bergworth is at the shrine. I'm hoping he can actually hear me. He's dialed in. G'day, big fella. How are you?
Yeah, good, Carl. How are you, mate?
Good. I opened today's show with a very poignant video that you produced and have put out, not just for Remembrance Day. Good to see so many people turned up to, but you plan on you plan on promoting this for the next 11 days. I think it's a great initiative that you and My Place have come up with.
Yeah, well, it's about, like I said, I think when you interviewed me the other week, it's not about leaving the remembrance and the respect here today or this morning. It's about doing something for our country to honour these people that actually gave their lives, in all the previous wars. Unbeknownst to them, they were being used and abused by the system. However, they weren't aware of that, and we've got to pay tribute, and we've got to stand up now as a people and take some actions. And seriously, the people in this country are so, I'll use the word apathetic, but I'd like to take the A away from that. Because they can't even make any just plain changes to their life to stop supporting the system, to stop supporting, the supermarkets that rape our farmers. So it's really concerning. So we've got to move on from today's remembrance and actually pay our respect by doing something to make sure that this country doesn't slip through our fingers on our watch and become a communist country.
Good. Looks like we've hit the off button there somewhere. Darren's disappeared, but I do like the sentiment. I love the sentiment, in fact, that we do not want to become a communist country, and in Victoria, it is one of the leading communist states in this country, I would say, closely followed by Western Australia, if they're not neck and neck. So other states are lining up, South Australia being one of them. It does look like a bit of freedom is being reintroduced back into Queensland, which we are hopeful of going forward. However, limited freedom is how they will release it back to us, and we'll think it'll be a great gain. And what they give with one hand, they taketh away with the other. So something we should always be a little bit prepared for. For some reason or other, here he is, the big fella's back. So we lost his pictures, but he's returned. Must be busy.
Rookie mistake, mate. My son was actually calling me, and I didn't put it into sleeper mode. So
do not disturb mode.
Yeah, do not.
That's all right. So just explain again where you dropped off. So the next 11 days, you'd like people to take an action. You don't have to do much, but for 11 days, you can go through and explain again.
Well, look, just yesterday I was speaking to the cafe, and apparently, just by inserting your card, if you're not, we don't want people using cards. We've got to get out of the electronic system as much as possible. I mean, these aren't projects or aren't actions that people are putting their life at risk or anything else. This is just something that we need to start people getting used to taking small actions. And then build up the mentality that, I can make a difference. I can actually change the consumerism bandwagon that I'm on, which is all about the globalisation. So, we at the end of the day, the people hold the ultimate power with where we spend our money, because our whole system operates on our commerce. And if we withdraw the commerce to the nth degree and prepare ourselves for what I'm hoping to get done in the next 2 years, financially, mentally, and spiritually, we can make a difference. But for some reason, maybe there's not enough pain happening yet in this country. Maybe people haven't been, pushed to their limits, and they're still in their comfort zone, and they don't want to make any changes. They don't want to make any sacrifices. They don't seem to want to invest their time by turning off the TV and actually doing some research and some study on just how many crimes your government's committing against you on a daily basis. I mean, this is heinous. What the government and the racketeering crime syndicate, organised crime syndicate, are portraying against Australian people, and people are just, they're just not. I don't get it. What's happened to
Neither
us?
do I. Neither do
Yep.
I. You and I have been sort of teaching people the illegalities, openly showing them, and getting plenty of replies that say, yeah, that's really bad. But the cognitive dissonance, the automatic programming of excuses for whatever they find the government doing is so inbred and deeply in some of them that there is just no way we're ever going to be able to get through it for some reason. And I, like you, like many others who do this, can't understand why there aren't tens of thousands of people there at the moment giving remembrance, but also letting them know that the people are watching, and we remember the fight for freedom that our forefathers made for us all, and they fought in good faith. I don't think they fought knowing what was going to happen.
No, correct. And they didn't know that they were being used by the bankers and all the rest of it. So for those people, all the naysayers saying about the Governor Gates, and I agree. Look, we know that there's no governor. We know that these wars are all organised by the same people. But we've got to educate people about that, and we've got to step up. I mean, there's 5 million people at least in this country now. It's nearly 4 years ago since Canberra when we had over 1 million people turned up to Canberra. So There is definitely 4 to 5 million people in this country, which is about 25% of the voting age population, that are fully aware, and I won't say awake, but aware of the problems, and a lot more are starting to be aware of the problems. What people aren't awake to is what the solutions are, and still a lot of programs and a lot of influencers are still all talking about the problems. Now, I've been really heartened actually over the last week or two. So many people getting behind this day and the respect and the remembering, and also getting behind, starting to take some action. So the more influencers and the more groups we have speaking the same language to redirect people's conversations away from, a native title claim in Victoria and Melbourne, away from digital ID, away from mass immigration, because that's what's dividing us. Everyone has a different perception of what the main issue is. The main issue is only one, and that is a foreign occupying, belligerent, organised crime syndicate, racketeering and enforcing slavery and usury against Australian people and committing genocide and war crimes and crimes against humanity. That's what the government is, and that's every level, from federal to state to local. All right, and they're colluding. Yep.
Given that that's a very big biscuit to swallow, and a vast number of people that we're trying to get that message to actually work for the foreign belligerent occupying force.
Yep.
Any ideas how we get, make 2026 even bigger?
Yeah, look, it's just a massive public awareness campaign, and like I said, I'm trying to build a site at the moment that maybe can be a one-stop shop for a library of police corruption, police charges, cases against police where they've been jailed. There's over 600 Victorian police at the moment that are under investigation for domestic violence, child pornography, and a host of other criminal activity. It's over 600. Now that's a huge amount. Now this is systemic through all levels of governance, all levels of judiciary, and constabulary. So we've just got to, it's got to be a massive public awareness campaign. And when people actually start to investigate and look at just how widespread and systemic it is, then it's up to them to, we've got to get them to the next stage of saying, well, this is unacceptable. We can no longer accept the system that we have. It is morally bankrupt. It is criminally bankrupt. And when we need to make change, and we need to force change. We are not going to get this country back through the ballot box or through the courts. We simply aren't. It's going to take that long to try and do that. The country will be dead and buried long before we have any chance in a political sphere. And knowing that the whole system is unlawful and criminal, that's where the focus has to be. It can't be on the issue. It can't be on the politics or the policy or the flag or the race or the religion or any all that other shit. It has to be solely focused on the criminality of the system.
I agree. And if we can get more people behind, or look, it's not even a matter of getting people behind it. I think it's a matter of getting people to understand that there is crime, or are many crimes being committed, not just one or two, and on a variety of levels. I tried to explain usury to somebody the other day, and it was like, well, but how would the banks make money?
Oh, I actually put up a well. The banks are all bank loans are fraud from the start. I put up a video on My Place Australia this morning, explaining that they're creating money off off our signatures, and it's all fraud. There's I don't know how many trillions of dollars of $300 odd trillion of global debt, and it just goes through who's it actually owed to. It's all a Ponzi scheme, and we know that it's about to collapse. But more people. We've just got it's a public awareness campaign. We've got people need to study what the government, what these crimes are, what treason, what constitutes treason, and which is just a breach of allegiance. What constitutes war crimes under the Geneva Convention and under the Hague, right? These are all the things. This is where the research should be going, because once people can see what crimes they're committing and they can back it up by the treaties that these governments and that have signed, then they start to realise that this isn't conspiracy theory that we're speaking. This is truth, and we've got to keep telling the truth, and we've got to focus it all on the criminality of the government and what they're doing to the people.
So you're going to try and spread that message a little later on today. So it's been a respectful gathering with the My Place crew and various other groups that have come together this morning at the Shrine. And while the formal part of the proceedings are starting to wind down, thank you to Tony for keeping us a view of what's going on up there. You actually have some other plans for today.
Yeah, look, to be honest, there's a reasonable crowd here. I don't know, maybe a couple of thousand, maybe 1,500. But I don't see that many people from the freedom movement here. So, I'm talking 50 maybe at the max. So that's kind of disappointing. But it is what it is. We've got to build. I remember Ricardo saying when he first did his first speech outside wherever it was in Parliament, nobody was listening to him. He was just there rattling off to himself. So, I think we've got to really get back in this fight. We've seemed to have lost our way, a lot of us, I guess, for certain reasons, different reasons, personal reasons, and just worn out and fatigue. But I think it's really time to step it up and put the pedal to the metal. And more people have got ears to listen and eyes to see now than ever before. And I think it's time that we made sure that they're getting the right message, and it's not a political one. That's the only reason I kind of got involved in doing that rally in September, was to make sure that the new people coming on board are aware that anyone that, in my opinion, that anyone that's trying to corral you back into a vote for me and I'll fix it. As far as I'm concerned, they are so far off the mark that they're either totally ignorant or they're controlled opposition wanting to corral you back into a system that's going to take you nowhere. We've got to take this country in a direction that's never been before, and it's a peaceful one. I'm not advocating for any violence or any uprisings or anything like that. It's just a sheer weight of numbers to defund the system and to demand that these criminals are stood down.
Yep, 100%. All right, mate. Look, I'll let you head off. Are you still planning on heading up to the governor's place a little later?
Yeah. Well, I'll head back to the Shrine now. We all kind of turned our back on Jacinta Allen when she went up to raise the reef, because she's certainly not honourable by any stretch. None of them are. But at the end of the day, we're here for one reason, and that is to remember, the sacrifice that these people made for us. And now it's time for everybody in this country to show the appreciation by actually taking some actions and withdrawing their support, withdrawing their funding from the globalisation, consumerism kind of mindset that we're all stuck in. It's going to take some discipline, but it starts with taking one action consistently, and then another action, and taking whatever actions you can from your own home. I know that Debbie from Orange, she was advocating for us to all turn our mains power switch off at 6 p.m. every single night and leave it off for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, however many hours you were happy to leave it off for, and then flick it back on. So that's an action that we could all kind of start to do, bring the candles out and get back to what we used to do when the power went off back in the 70s, which used to be free where I lived. So,
well,
I mean,
you can
there's
move to Queensland, because I reckon we'll be going back to brownouts again this year.
Well, hopefully, because then people won't have a TV. I think that could be a good thing. I think we need to, and look, I can't speak too much because I'll probably spend 10 hours plus on my phone each day. But it's for a purpose. It's certainly to educate myself. It's certainly to try and spread a message and hopefully educate other people. And look, I don't profess to know what I'm doing by any stretch, but I do know that there are actions that we can take, and their whole system relies on our compliance, our consent, and our money. And I think if we withdraw all of those things to the nth degree on as many levels as we can, that will make a difference if we do it en masse. And then we've just got to get the education into enough people on just how corrupt and criminal the system is to then be able to get the numbers to force a change.
Absolutely. Mate, thank you. I'll let you go and catch up with everybody there again and get yourself sorted for this afternoon. We'll record that and I'll play it back tonight in the show. So thanks again for everything that you're doing today and for the next 11 days. Everybody, do what you can. Always pay cash. Don't go and get your fuel from BP or the big people. Go and try and use an independent if you can. If you can go to an independent supermarket, use them, or better still, go direct to the farmer. See if you can't get a paddock to plate deal and keep that going around your friends and family. It'll just make a little. You can all do that. It's going to make a big difference. So thanks, Darren.
No, thank you, Carl. Thanks for the opportunity to spread the message on your show, and we've just got to keep doing it. And I noticed Guru did a live this morning. We just got to. This got to be. Everybody's got to be spreading the same message, and we will not accept. We can't be doing things through their system. We can still do that, but we've got to have an overreaching or an overarching kind of plan above that. That when people get fed up trying to break through their corrupt system and say, no, this isn't going to work, we've got to have another vehicle that we can board. But we do need to educate them. We do need to keep holding them to account in councils, in courts, in educating our police, and so on and so forth. It is a mass education, not just for the public, but for the people that are in those positions as well. Eventually we will get there. And like I said, thanks again, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, mate. Look forward to it. Darren Bergworth in Melbourne, and thank you to Tony, who is supplying us pictures from the shrine at the moment, and the flame, of course, the eternal flame. Was a very busy place around there this morning. God, the hours I've spent standing around that in my life. It is a very moving place. If you get the opportunity, folks, and you happen to be in Melbourne, it's a very short, easy walk straight up out of the city to go to the shrine and spend just a minute remembering those who died for us and the lives that we're currently trying to win back for ourselves because we've had them stolen. Thank you very much. I'm going to leave you with just that flame for a little while, folks. And I will record some stuff this afternoon from Darren's march to the Governor's Gates, and we'll have that in tonight's show. Also tonight, on Remembrance Day, it's going to be quite fitting. We're going to speak with a returned serviceman, a bloke who, I guess a bit similar to me, went in pretty young and had great wide ideals and ideas about being in the Defence Forces. He actually got in. I didn't, of course. And his brother was also part of the Australian Defence Forces. It is a sad and tragic tale, but on a number of levels, and some that will shock you. So on a day where we remember those who have fallen for this country, not just in World War I or World War II, but all those who've served and all those who've had mental health battles because of that service, we remember. I'll speak to you live tonight, folks.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!